When the brain's had too much work, you get tired.
Oh, yeah.
Because it wants to sleep.
Absolutely.
When the brain's had too much stress, you get stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Because the brain has had too much to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So when we allow it to see itself, it does what actually is the opposite of what you would think sometimes. Let's take, you have a 8th grader with, they say ADD, right? Attention deficit disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? If you give that 8th grader you give them a stimulant,
mm-hmm.
Adderall, Ritalin, right?
Yep.
That's a stimulant on time release, and it pushes up the brain activity artificially.
Right.
And then if you keep doing that, i.e. the person keeps using it, then at some point in time, then they can't sleep because the brain gets artificially pushed, and now it doesn't stop and it doesn't slow down enough to sleep well. And so then they have to have something to help them sleep.
Wow.
So we're at 30 or 40% now in every college or university. They use stimulant and sleep. In my day, they used to call that
drugs.
Bingo. That's exactly what they called it. And so what Cereset does is exactly the opposite. We relax the brain. We bring it down. And when we bring it down, it's like gears that can mesh together, and now they can function.
That's great.
And so when one's going at a different speed, when one's going at a different angle, those gears can't mesh well when you think about it as a mechanism.
Sure.
And so that's what the whole technology does, is to relax. And that's why, because you had it. But for me, when I have a tune-up session, that means a 10-minute nap at least.
Oh, yeah, totally, yeah. I sleep through almost every time I do it, and I sleep really good, and I come out refreshed. Yeah. Now, what are some of the negative impacts of having a brain that's not balanced?
A brain that's not balanced will lead us to make decisions that aren't wise.
And that can happen in your relationships, too.
That always happens in relationships, because that's where the energy flows the most. It doesn't happen in calculating something. Right. As an engineer would.
Right.
But in a relationship,
where your wife or husband talks back to you or talks at you.
Yes. Here we go. Now, in a relationship, everything, they say that there's a honeymoon period, right? And then they say that after the honeymoon period, there are some rough edges, maybe. Well, if those rough edges get more than just a few, stressors keep going up and up and up. And if they keep going up, what do? We get into fight or flight. That means exactly what it is. The brain goes into a sympathetic dominance on the right side, and we're more apt to argue.
So when you talk about the imbalances, fight, flight, or freeze, you're actually talking about your brain does something different.
Totally.
So walk through that, because you use bigger words than like most people might use. Parasympathetic, and explain that. But so if I fight or I flight or I freeze, in brain language, give that to me.
The freeze response is when the brain numbs everything. It's when it says, this person is going to implode, and therefore we're going to settle him or her down. We're going to contract blood. We're going to slow the heart rate. We're going to slow the lung. We're going to slow the firing in the brain. We're going to slow all that in a parasympathetic dominance. And it will often lead to a depressive tendency.
Right.
In fight or flight.
So in freeze, the person might feel depressed. They might turn to food. They might not have the energy.
Well, their food doesn't digest well, too. Okay. It's not just that they go there, but it doesn't digest well.
So they gain more weight.
A lot more.
Yeah, okay.
Metabolism doesn't work.
Okay, so that's important. So if someone's experienced a lot of trauma, we'll talk about that in relationships. That could actually be why they can't lose weight.
Yeah, it's definitely one possibility.
Okay. Let's keep going. So now give me the other sides of the brain.
The other side then is the gas. So if we have the brake on the left, we have the gas on the right, just like a car. And that's how we go through life. Gas, brake, gas, brake, gas, brake. Sometimes we need to shut down and rest and digest. And sometimes we need to speed up and really go for it. And the brain needs to move where it needs to move when it needs to move there. Mm-hmm. If it can't do that, then it's stuck.
Then it's stuck.
And it's gotten too much stress. And therefore, maybe it's too much stress in fight or flight. And he says something or she says something, and there's a quick response. Mm-hmm. And the response is not at all equal to the issue.
Right.
The response is way different. Mm-hmm. And that tells us that the person, or both, one or both, are off. They're both, one or both are stuck.
They're overreacting.
Yeah.
Okay.